All right, let's jump into this thing. Today we have a 9-10 minute recording from Dick Santo's Band of Brothers talk. He's going to talk a little bit about how the insurance model first entered into chiropractic, how we first started applying that, and basically what it did for the profession. It's about 9 minutes long, and then afterwards myself and Daniel Sterling are going to talk about it and explain our thought process. This is what you have in store, and hope you enjoy it.
That was the principle. And we were prepared to defend the principle. There was no insurance. Metropolitan, I think, had the only insurance. And the insurance form was 4 questions. What's the patient's name? How many times did he come in? What did it cost? And we sent it in. And maybe 1 in 30 people had insurance. Everything else was cash. We practiced the cash practice. Not because it was, quote, the thing to do. It was the only thing to do. And in practicing the cash practice, you know what happens when you practice cash? When a patient has to come into your office and pay you? You got to produce results. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, and buts about this. You got to produce results. You got to deliver. You got to put it on the line. And that's what we did. And we all ran practices. All 13 of us ran practices in excess of 200 patients a day. In excess of that. Some of us advertised, some of us didn't. I had a Mary Benira, which I've told you about before. Mary Benira used to come in. Every time she came in, she would take a stack of cards. And when I mean a stack of cards, I mean a stack of cards. And she went to St. Elizabeth's Roman Catholic Church. And on Sunday, she would stand out in front of the church and hand my cards out. Why? Why would she do this? That's exactly right. And she understood the principle. And the principle made sense to her. And the principle was right to her. And the principle ran parallel with the way she wanted to live her life. And she wanted to share this with everybody that she came into contact with. I didn't force her to do this. Did it on her own. She did it on her own. And time went on, and came Medicare. All of a sudden, we were in Medicare. Now we were getting paid without the patient having to pay us. And then this insurance company said, we'll include chiropractic care. And then that insurance company, we'll include chiropractic care. And we'll include chiropractic care. And we'll include chiropractic care. And we'll include chiropractic care. We'll include it. And we'll include it. We'll give you 50 visits. We'll give you 100 visits. We'll give you 150 visits. We'll give you this. We'll give you that. We'll give you this. We'll give you that. See? And then came into the field the first of the prostitutes. Come to my seminar. I will tell you all the numbers to put down on the insurance form that will maximize the amount of money you can collect from the insurance company. And now, instead of practicing to take care of the people, practiced to see how much money we could make. See, if you put this number down, you can do this. You put this number down, you can tell them that basically you're putting hot compresses on. If you put this number down and you spit in the air, you can tell them you're doing this. If you put this number down and you do this, if you do this down, you can rub them down. You do this, and it goes on and on and on and on. And people were getting $150, $200, $250 for a visit. And this went on for some time until the insurance companies went, wait a minute. Whoa, just slow it down here. And they started to cut back on claims. And they started to send out the notorious 6 questions. And then they wanted reports, and then they wanted you to send in your records, and they wanted to do this, and they wanted to do that, and they started saying, reject the claim, 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 reject the claim. And all of a sudden, people were going, how do I practice now if the insurance company is not paying me? How do I practice now? I mean, they're not paying me anymore. What do I do now? How about get results? Hey, now there's a very unique thought. See, because the concept was, if I got results, good. If I didn't get results, what the hell's the difference? Insurance company's going to pay me anyway. You know, just keep coming in. You're not paying anything. Come on, just, you know. How much you charge, doc? Don't worry about it. Insurance company, they'll take care of it. And we trained the insurance company to think differently about what we did. See? Before that, we were principled. We adjusted to remove interference, to re-establish the connection of innate intelligence. But now we were manipulating, we were doing PT, we were doing hot, we were doing cold, we were doing sound, we were doing no sound, whatever. For what reason? To collect more money. And we trained the insurance company in such ways by the diagnoses that we were putting down on the insurance forms. We trained them to think of us as being treatment doctors. Where before we were interference removers. We removed subluxation. That's what we did. I tell you the truth, I never ever put anything down on an insurance form except subluxation. Now, I didn't get paid a hell of a lot because I did that. But I was damned if I was going to lie. So now all of a sudden, people say, well, you know, I'm a principal chiropractor. I can't understand why people don't understand what principle is. And the reason that they don't understand what principle is because we trained them into thinking we were something else. You don't think so? Go home, pick up your yellow pages, look at the ads. How many ads talk about principle in your phone book? What do they talk about? Backache, auto accidents, neck specialist, auto accident specialist, ba-da-bum, 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 ba-da-bum. Oh, I don't understand why people don't understand what we do. They do understand what we have taught them that we do. Which perhaps makes up this much of what chiropractic is. This much. We sold out. See, now we got a group of chiropractors out there now who basically are tempting us, are making attempts, and very successful attempts, to force us to accept chiropractic on a purely mechanistic medical model type of situation. And the reason they are able to do this is because we enable them.
So that
All
was
right.
Dick Santo's Band of Brothers talk. The main things I
Yeah.
got from it was like these are some of the OG chiropractors, some of the last ones that really from the core of their being were prepared to defend the principle and basically die for the principle. I think it's good to be a bit more well versed in the history of how insurance actually started to come into play in chiropractic, because at first, as he was saying, it was all cash and it was all based on, are you able to get results for your people?
Yeah.
Slowly but surely in came Medicare.
That's where we are in Spain right now.
In a cash model.
Yeah. So what we saw in the States was things came in, the insurance came in, and, you know, he's been listening to a lot of Sigavus, so it's very biblical almost.
Yeah.
So things were pure, and then insurance came in. We took a bite out of the forbidden apple, the forbidden fruit.
Yeah. We sold
it
our
was
soul to the devil. Yeah, these guys are practicing cash, and as I said, whenever you're paying cash, you have to deliver the goods, and that's why you've got these people who I think they were kind of the last of their kind. Maybe we have a few these days, but these were the last ones that were kind of seeing. You were expected to see 200 people a day. You were expected to see miracles. Now, those guys still exist, but it's not the given.
Right. It's the extraordinary to see that it's really tough. It's very enlightening listening to this, to his speech. It's a great speech. And, you know, to hear the passion, but also the passion we get, but to hear the disappointment in his voice and how he says, you know, we enabled this to happen. It was insidious, and it's our fault. It's chiropractic's fault. We got what we deserved here. So, but you know, we always talk about trying to do your best at any moment. So what can we do now to stop that and to turn the tide, which is so much more difficult than it would have been keeping it pure.
Yeah.
Well,
we trained the insurance people to think of chiropractic the way that we needed the insurance people to think of chiropractic, and that's still prominent today. And I like the quote as well, where it's like, oh, I don't understand why people don't understand what we do. They do understand whatever you have taught them we do.
Yes.
So if you've taught them that you're only for musculoskeletal problems, then don't be surprised whenever that's what they believe. If you believe that there's something wrong with principled chiropractic, don't be surprised whenever the patient thinks that too. You know, like I don't want to be the pain guy. I don't want to have just a stream of patients coming in. Oh, can you help me with my neck pain, my back pain? But it is your job to educate them on what it is that you do. So that's the way I'm kind of looking at it now. I don't know if I'm going to do this whenever I graduate. He spoke in the clip that we listened to about the yellow pages. Now the yellow pages is basically redundant, but let's take something that's a little bit more 2020. So Facebook advertising. So my question to you is it such a big deal? Is it such a big problem to market on Facebook advertising, for example, and say, I can help you with your headaches, your neck pain, your shoulder pain, your back pain, and kind of meet them where they're at, because that might motivate someone to take the first step, get into the office, and then once they're in the office, okay, now I can teach them about, as he's talking about, the principle. So in my head at the moment, I'm like, is there really such a big problem doing that, as long as whenever they come in that you're educating them and then you're not the shoulder doctor, you know?
Yeah. You know, well, once again, that's very tricky. You got to walk a fine line with that, because you're really getting close to a bait and switch situation where you say, this is what I'm doing to cure you. And, you know, you better get results first of all. And that's really what they're going to value, because that's the conversation that you entered in on. You see, I've got curly hair and a beard growing these days in the quarantine, because I can't get a haircut. but my wife likes it because I met her when I was a student and I had curly hair and a beard.
Right.
This is what happens when you meet people based on those ads. I've done one or two of them, I think, in Facebook a couple of years ago. We were doing a coaching thing, a Facebook coaching thing, and it didn't work. It doesn't work for me because my heart's not in that. I did it. Not going to do it again. We're going to talk about health. We're not going to talk about disease and sickness. But what it reminds me of is what he was talking about before, the fight that they had, them, the passion, the fire to, you're going to talk, you're going to attack my guy. I got, 100 brothers behind me. I'm going to take care of this chiropractor and that chiropractor, and they're going to take care of me. And there's none of that. There's no fight now. We have no pressure to defend. We're not in defense mode. We're in desperation mode as a profession. So you see, which can be dangerous, but you see when he was talking about people advertising and going to jail for those advertisements, you don't see that today.
Right.
It's a kind of a microcosm of where society is now, where people don't want to upset they want to upset the status quo, but they're not willing to do it. We're really getting sick and tired of the status quo as a people. I really think many people are, but who's going out there and doing it effectively? Very few. It reminds me of what's going on right now with coronavirus, where it's easy for me to talk because legally I can't go to my office and adjust. And I could just say, F it, I'm going to my office to adjust. Responsibly, I would be putting into danger anyone I would become a vector place. But I could say, I'm getting a hazmat suit and I'm going to adjust everybody who tests positive, who's not on a ventilator. If you're not in the hospital and you have coronavirus, come to my office. I'm going to adjust you. I'm going to adjust you 5 times a day, and let's see what happens. That's what they did in 1917 with the Spanish flu.
Yeah.
But we're not doing that. In fact, we've got chiropractors saying, oh, well, I'm going to take their temperature before they come in. So what are you going to do? If they have coronavirus, if they have a fever, you're not going to adjust them? That is really opposite. That is completely opposite to the principles.
Yeah, right now, if those guys were alive today, they'd be in there adjusting, and if they were getting in trouble with the government because of that, then so be it. Compare that in comparison to the chiropractors we have now, who are maybe using Groupon and saying if you have these pains, then come to see us.
Yeah, I'd like to see us take the next step and talk about innate, talk about philosophy in those videos. And people will watch them because they got nothing better to do. We run through our Netflix really, really quickly. And you got to watch some stuff on social media. So let's make a video. Let's make a principled video. Sponsor that.
But then how would you suggest, like, if you're not going to market for pain, unless you're just not going to market and you're going to do like what Mark and Lynn do, and it's a completely 100% internal referral practice. But my question would be, like, if you do want to do some marketing, whether it's on social media, blah, 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 how you can't really open up with innate intelligence and universal intelligence and the principles. So how do you suggest that you would meet them where they're at and get them at least into the office? Once they're in the office, I'm pretty confident I would be able to sit down and educate them. But that's where, in my mind, it's a little bit muddled, because if I'm marketing, I would feel like I need to have the pain conversation first, That's
the thing, is don't market. Right now, you can't get any people in your office, so there's nothing to market. We don't know. I don't know if next month I'm going to be able to open my office legally. I don't know if I'll be in there, but legally, it's possible May 1st, I won't be able to go back to the office. So for the next month, what am I going to do? If I'm going to talk chiropractic, I'm not going to be talking about neck pain and back pain because I'm not marketing to anybody. So it gives us a unique opportunity to get out there and talk and make videos. I see people making videos, they're breaking their comfort zone, and it's really great. I see people, we've dominated exercise, nutrition, sleep patterns. We talk about vitamins. We talk about, different things. Dominique Hort, I love hearing him talk about environment. But these are all the pillars of health, and let's talk about the base of that, which is chiropractic. And it's not just that your spine is in alignment. That's referring to a manipulation, as opposed to when you talk about the spinal neural system being free of interference, you're talking about an adjustment. So there's a lot we can do. We have a great opportunity, I really believe, to be able to educate and not market right now. And that might be something where we take a look at chiropractic 30, 50 years from now, and we say, wow, that pandemic, that global pandemic, 100 years after the first one that saw chiropractic, gave chiropractic notoriety, we really took advantage, and we are where we are today because principal chiropractors stepped up and dominated the conversation of health and healing, wellness, and well-being, and not death, sickness, and disease.
Yeah, I agree with you, but my concern would be the way you're talking about the environment, your sleep schedule, your nutrition, your supplements. When I see chiropractors doing all this stuff online, I'm like, okay, yeah, good for them because they are right. And all that stuff's interesting. Like I have a degree in sports coaching. I had to study all that. We did sleep studies. We did all the nutrition courses, blah, blah, blah. So I know all that stuff. And I'm like, yes, all of it is interesting, but it is not chiropractic. So whenever I have someone coming to see me, I'm like, okay, yes, all that stuff's interesting. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be going and doing that, but that's not what my job is. That's not what I'm coming here for.
Exactly. So that's where I'm saying that what we see from chiropractors today is where, we're getting out there and educating. We're not talking about sickness for the most part, for what I see on social media, and I spend very little time on it because I got a beautiful daughter at home to play with, and my wife too. So, but what I'm saying is, if we make these videos, let's change the conversation. And yes, we're not marketing anymore for headaches and backaches. We're talking about healthy things, vitalistic, positive, constructive values. But let's go further and talk about chiropractic. We're scared to then go into that second. I see people, we're like circling around it, right? We're talking, these are all positive survival values. Positive survival values, okay, but for what? How is it going to come together? Innate intelligence.
Right.
Bring it together.
Yeah.
So that's right. And yeah, and this is just me talking. I haven't put out a video yet either. So
yeah,
that's
well, it's a similar thought to, I had a conversation with a fellow chiropractic student the other day who is really into a coaching group, which I'll not mention, that is talking a lot about sales. It's all like sales, this kind of thing. And the conversation I was having with her is similar point to what I just said to you. I was like, yes, all that stuff's interesting, and you do need a little bit of it. You do need to know how to communicate to the patient, and you need to know how to sell. But when that becomes all that you can do and all that you're good at, it becomes now you're being a salesman as opposed to being a chiropractor and just getting results. I'm like, if you can communicate with people, you can put your hands on them, and you're a good adjuster and you're getting them good results, there's not really that much sales that you need. Whereas instead of just inflating a practice, to me, it's the same as if you were doing the adjustment, but you were doing all these other modalities. You can you can do shitty adjustments, but you can inflate everything else with sales, and you can have all the scripts, and you can have all the best advertising, blah, blah, blah.
There's
But
a
to me,
lot
I'm
of
like,
shitty
I think,
adjusters that make a lot of money. A lot of them.
yeah,
And
I think we make it overcomplicated. We're using all this insurance stuff and using all this modalities, and then relying on a sales script, as opposed to what Dick Santo is saying here, like relying on teaching them about the principle, and then you got to deliver the goods. You got to be able to adjust, right?
yeah, yeah. What was he saying? That instead of taking care of the people, it's about how much money am I making. So once again, I think it has to do with, there's a fear of not getting paid, of not making money. Not even just how much can I make, but just, can I make enough? And I really think that the foundation of that fear is in that, where we've put ourselves in a mechanistic medical model, that what he says at the end of that clip, that they've successfully forced into accepting that. So we've accepted this mechanistic medical model that we've enabled. And so, yeah, if we are one first of all, we're not even being authentic as a profession, and we're a voice among physios, among osteos, among medicals, among acupuncturists, all these other things that are treatments or therapies. And so, am I going to be able to get enough people in to pay my student loans, to put food on the table, to buy the big house that my coach has? And that's completely missing the point. That's our paradigm. Let's shift the paradigm first within us before we can shift the public paradigm. We need to think, no, we're chiropractic, we're not therapists. We don't treat anything. We take care of the neurospinal system. What we do, no one else does. No one does what we do in chiropractic. And once you realize we have a monopoly on taking care of the neurospinal system, removing subluxation, and letting innate take care of the body, you have a monopoly. You can set whatever price, people will come in, and you will give them the best quality adjustment that you can, because it's all about removing subluxation, turning on the light, turning on the life force. End of story. We just have to change our paradigm. The people who are afraid aren't sure of what they do.
Well, maybe the best thing that we could do is just, in my opinion, go back to basics. Drop all the insurance codes, drop all the other modalities, drop all the fancy sales scripts and coaching and sales funnels and all this stuff, and really just go back to basics. And look, these guys had little more than a grade school education. They didn't have the 12-step, script that you can use. They were just getting people in and adjusting them. And that was enough. And they were seeing 200 people a day. So how come those guys were seeing 200 people a day, and there's chiropractors now today starving and saying, oh, please use my Groupon and come in and spend 30 euros and maybe I make some money off the back of selling you some fish oil? If we could go back to basics, I think everybody would do better.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's the thing. We're going to need to change it. We're going to have to flip it. But that's the thing, goes back to status quo. We have enabled this paradigm to take hold of our profession. And it was what did he say? It was the wolf becoming a dog. Oh, that was a great analogy.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a beautiful.
That's what we've done.
Part. Yes. And we allowed it. We were so happy to receive it, right? It was, we were proud wolves in the wild, just thriving. And we get a little piece of meat here, a little bit of money. What's going on with that? Okay, sure. And just little by little, and then they got a chain around your neck.
Yeah. And the sad thing is, if we just kept doing what we were doing back then, everyone would have made more than enough money. You don't have to think about the money. Oh, how am I going to market my practice? No, in my opinion, again, I'm a student, so I I can only say how I'm viewing the world. I haven't actually experienced this, but if you care about the people and you're getting them results, they will come, but your focus should be on that as opposed to focusing on the sales. If you focus on getting results, the sales just come. You don't have to worry about it. It's almost as I heard the analogy before. It's like a carpenter who's working on his art. So if you're putting the focus into the art, the wood shavings that you get, that's what money is. But the carpenter's not doing it with the objective of making the wood shavings. He's just enjoying what he's doing, and the shavings come as a result. That's like money in chiropractic, or the way I would look at it anyway.
That's a great way to look at it. And, you know, I could see where what you say is that's your point of view as a student, because you haven't tested this out yet. You don't know for sure. It's theory, and you haven't put it into practice yet. And the truth is that if you focus on giving a good adjustment, giving a great adjustment, giving a powerful adjustment, and focus on what you're doing is being authentic and taking interference from the nervous system and letting the body heal itself, it happens. People get better. People refer other people because they know you're not full of shit. And people hate being sold. They hate being tricked. As a student, you need to test this out. And I'll tell you, there's no principal chiropractor who owns the philosophy, who owns the principles, who believes in the power of an adjustment and can deliver that through training his skill and studying the adjustment. None of those chiropractors are wondering how to make ends meet. Going back to the Santos speech, he says it's not the principles that make practices, it's the devotion to the principles that make the practice. So that's the wolf. So you have to be devoted to it. And devotion isn't learning once at school, taking a course, and then just doing your own thing. Devotion is study, is intense study. It's constant study. So we talk about, I think I've said sometimes in a seminar, whatever, the day you graduate is not when you stop being a student. You're a student your whole career. This is why it's called a practice, because you keep practicing at it and you get better and better. So as you're a student right now, I see you guys in BCC, and it's really great to see Principled Chiropractic. You guys are all going to seminars, philosophy seminars, and adjusting seminars. It's really great because once you get out, you have that, and you just need to. I can see where you're wondering whether that's good enough, and I want to tell you that it is. You don't need to figure out how to trick people into coming into your office, how to lure them in by anything other than this is what chiropractic does. We are the only ones that do it. You need it. I have a monopoly on chiropractic in my office. This is the price. You'll get it. Serving up life. That's it. It's clearly you need to be able to communicate. You need to be the people who love being with people, the extroverts, the ones that can communicate effectively, do better economically in that.
It's going back to basics. That kind of practice is very simple, not easy, but very simple.
Life is complicated, and at times in my life too, I've had a little bit of bumps in the road where either your confidence gets shaken or your focus shifts and your authenticity drops for a second because you're not, I've had a tough time health-wise during school, during in my office, and in those moments, I see a dip in my practice. It's true, and that has a lot to do with, at the time, I was buying into being that the message is the messenger. And so if I wasn't fully healthy, I couldn't, if I wasn't fully healthy, or I needed to be the picture of health in order to serve this, which is true. But if I'm not the picture of health, that doesn't mean that I can't serve. It just means that I need to be authentic to that. And at those moments, it's because I was pretending to be the picture of health when I wasn't feeling well, when I was in pain, and still trying to ignore that fact. And so it's a lot of that authenticity, where, let's see, where Santo says, live your life.
Yeah. That thought on authenticity
Yeah.
kind of relates to what you're doing, because I feel that, I think I've said this in past interviews with you, whenever you first took over MLS, it kind of felt to me it was like Danny Sterling doing an impression of Arnaud Bernier. You can't be the next you can't be the next Arnaud Bernier the same way I can't be the next Jim Sigafus, but you can be the first Daniel Sterling and I can be the first Zarek Bartley.
Yeah.
So it's like taking the pieces from that and then making it your own. It's okay to take motivation from them, but don't try and do an impression of them. Otherwise, people can pick that up. And the patients can pick it up as well if you're not being authentic. If you're trying to play the doctor, they can pick that up and they're just going to leave.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyone who's worth having in your office will pick that up. It's the people who are there for the someone who's there for the shiny gold coin, the thing that your advertisement, the promises that you're making. Those people are going to leave anyways. But
so for that reason, that's why you would advise me not to do the pain marketing, just to stay away from that completely, even if you're going to educate them when they get in.
No, screw that. I just don't do it. Don't go into that conversation. What you'll see is if you're starting out, and this is, I can see where your mind is at. You're kind of figuring out how to start your practice when you get out. And if you begin with that model, at some point you're going to feel dirty and you're going to change it. And you're going to see a big dip where you're kind of finding your legs again. You have an amazing philosophical background and the ability to communicate it right now. If you keep with that and keep communicating it and refining your message, and you see it in the clinic where when you give those adjustments, those amazing adjustments, and you see the results, that gives you the confidence to then next time you give the health talk, you're that much more convinced, certain of what you're saying, and that what you do is the best thing and no one else does it. No other profession does what we do. And you can say that and people will believe you because you're just so freaking sure of yourself. You can't lose with that.
Sure.
You hear Dick Santos, he's not unsure about anything that he's saying in this speech.
All right. Any closing thoughts? Anything you want to wrap up with? What's on your mind?
It's just really an amazing time right now, and very big transition here. A lot of people in their houses, we're trying to figure out what to do. But just go back to the basics, what you were saying, just reset, hit the reset button, and let's go back to it. I have an aunt that's really sick right now. She's been in the ICU on a ventilator for 10 days. And 2 days ago, they said they were going to pull the plug soon.
Oh, wow.
That she had a high fever and it wouldn't come down. And so they did a Zoom call with my uncle and my cousin, and they said their goodbyes. But she's in a medically induced coma, so she can't hear them. It's not an interaction at all. And we found out today that they had found a bacterial infection, and they treated her with antibiotics, and the fever went down, and they're able to turn her over now and move her without her lungs reacting. So it's for right before it right after the worst moment. It's it's the first moment that it's starting to get better, that things are starting to improve. So, but they say the darkest hour is just before the dawn. So let's see what happens here. This is a very dark hour, not just for my aunt, but for many people out there, and for our practices as well. So let's prepare, let's step up and really refine our message.
There's a lot of chiropractic offices closed at the moment. It's pretty dark for the profession. Maybe Corona is what we need to wake us up a little bit, go back to basics like what Dick Santo's talking about in this recording.
Yeah.
And get back on track, man, you know?
Absolutely. Definitely.
All right. Well, probably no more profound way to end it than that. So with that, I will say goodbye.
All right, Zarak. Love you, brother.
Right. Speak to you soon.